Hello all, today we are going to learn something very different, very new, very different from what we have seen on my YouTube channel until now. I'm gonna help you to learn a very impressively looking breakdance move called Windmill. Windmill is relatively easy to learn if we compare it to how impressively it looks. Don't waste more time, let's get started. Remember that before each breakdance training you should warm up and stretch thoroughly. Breakdance is a very perilous dance. What I'm showing here is just a summary. If you want to know how to stretch and warm up properly before each training, I recommend you to watch one of my next videos, which I will release soon. And now, watch a quick summary of the warm-up, walking, stretching in the knees, hips, ankles, wrists, elbows. All of these will be used heavily today. I myself am quite flexible, and I can spread my legs very wide. Thanks to this, my windmill is performed with fairly straight legs, but I assure you that it is absolutely not necessary to know how to do a split. Although the more stretched you are, the better your windmill will look, in my opinion. Here's another doubt. In which direction should you rotate? If you are right-handed, I encourage you to rotate in the same direction as I do. That is, prop yourself on your right arm. The direction of rotation is very important, especially once you start learning other breakdance moves, because in order to combine them, you have to rotate in the same direction. For example, you can't do windmill in one direction and another move like flare in another direction. However, if you still want to learn windmill rotating in the other direction, I recommend you to focus more on the mirror reflection in this video. The basic thing to learn is a freeze called Jackhammer and its variations, with bent legs, with straddle legs, and possibly a jackhammer with both legs stuck together. And now the question is, what do we need it for? When you look at the version of the windmill that I am showing you, you'll see that during each rotation there's a moment when I hold this freeze. The first important thing to learn about jackhammer is the location of the elbow. So if this is our torso, we take half of our torso and then place our elbow in the middle of the half. The palm should not be facing upwards or towards our right side. The fingers should be pointing to the right knee or foot, which can be seen when I'm holding the freeze. Another important thing is to set the right angle between your arm and forearm. This angle should not be too large or obtuse, nor too small, acute. When holding jackhammer freeze, we should keep a more or less right angle. I mean a 90-degree angle. When the angle is acute, it is hard to get off the ground because, according to the widely known math formula visible on the screen, the center of gravity shifts to the legs. To remedy this, we intuitively raise our legs up and our head falls to the ground. This is not a correct jackhammer. If this angle is too large, obtuse, we will have to straighten and join the legs so that the center of gravity stays above our right hand, palm. That's how we'll stand in a modified version of the jackhammer. It's not necessary to be able to hold it, as it's quite difficult, but if you know how to do it, then great. It can only help you to learn windmill. Finally, the jackhammer that we really need is a jackhammer with bent legs, in which the head is at the level of the feet and shoulders at the level of the butt. Our torso should be more or less parallel to the ground. When you can hold the previous freeze for 10 seconds, we can move to the next one. Jackhammer stand with straddle legs. At this point, we might face some difficulties. If you've never done anything similar, then after the first workouts, you will probably get strong cramps, soreness in your hips. Another modification of the jackhammer in relative stillness is a jackhammer with legs held together. In practice, this is a test for whether you have mastered the jackhammer enough to continue learning the windmill. So, we add the other elbow to the belly and put both hands on the floor in a symmetrical manner. This figure looks quite impressive, quite similar to a planche, which is visible at the top of the screen. Fortunately, the jackhammer with legs held together is much easier than planche. Next, we need to learn how to slowly rotate in jackhammer. As you can see, my right hand is still relatively to the ground at least, and yet My body revolves around my hand using the range of my elbow joint. Now we have to add a small jump on our right hand. We'll be helped by the legs that move up and the left hand on which, for a split of a second, a significant part of our body's weight rests. During the flight, my hand slightly changes the angle so that after landing again, I can revolve around its axis. In this way, in theory, we can keep going on indefinitely. That's how you learn the simplified version of Jackhammer. And now, a fast version of Jackhammer. With a robust jackhammer under our belt, we can learn how to kickstart the windmill from jackhammer freeze. It is important that the left leg rises before the right leg starts swinging along the floor. It may not seem like, but my hips and butt do not touch the floor for a single moment. In fact, you should not touch the ground with your back below the line I am showing on the screen. If you touch the ground with the lower back, then as a consequence, during each rotation, your pelvis will be bumping against the floor. Such hits will cause painful bruises, which I'm marking in red on the screen, which will prevent you from training for at least a few days. Now we will see a few examples of incorrect windmill entries. The first entry is too low. It is related to what I said earlier. We start the windmill too low, we touch the ground with butt and the pelvis. This is because the left leg is not kicked high enough. Because of this, the right leg flies close to the ground and pulls us down. This is how we fall on our butts and hurt ourselves. Here we have a correct entry. First, the left leg rises and then the right leg goes along the ground. The left leg gives enough power to our body, and thanks to this, we are not pulled too close to the ground. We land correctly on the upper back without touching the floor with the butt. Another problem often will be scissoring, that is, not keeping the legs wide enough. If this is your problem, you'll lose all the propulsion. You will not be able to enter the next rotation. The rule is very simple. Feet should be at least 1 meter apart at absolutely every moment of the windmill. In my case, my feet are even more than 1 meter apart, but this is not needed. Then we have to learn how to get back to the jackhammer after lying on our back. At first, it may look like this. Note that I am unable to place my elbow under my belly. But getting back to the jackhammer properly should look something like this. Once again, pay attention. Here, I managed to place my elbow under my belly. Your learning will be more effective if you understand what is the driving force when doing a windmill. These are, first and foremost, the legs, and not the hand on which we rest. To understand this, lie on your back and try to turn around using your legs a lot and your hands as little as possible. Once again, it is important not to scissor your legs. That is, keep your feet away from each other at least 1 meter. When you manage to get back into the jackhammer, your windmill may look something like this at the beginning. The only thing missing here is a stronger leg kick, especially the left leg, which brings us back to the jackhammer position and allows to start the next rotation right after. Over time, your windmill will look better and better. Remember that the straighter your legs are, the more powerful your windmill will look. To summarize, let's look briefly at all stages of the windmill. Windmill is a movement which can be learned relatively quickly. 50 to 100 hours, that is about 3 months of training, should be enough. However, I know people who learned windmill in just a few weeks. I also know people who spend a lot of time, maybe years, on windmills,
without ever learning them completely. That is why I encourage you to learn step by step, as I showed in the video. Without mastering all these elements separately, it will be very difficult for you to generate a strong propulsion. And that's all. I wish you success in learning the windmill. If you would like me to help you learn other breakdance, acrobatics, or calisthenics moves, please just leave me a comment.